Welcome to the Family Dynasty Podcast, where legacy meets leadership. I'm your host, Matt Dewing, family guide, business advisor, and believer in generational purpose. Our aim is to inspire and equip you to lead your family so that together you will experience compounding wealth in all 7 capitals through the generations. Each week we uncover timeless wisdom, cultural dynamics, and practical tools to help you lead with vision, live with intentionality, and build a flourishing family that multiplies in impact. Let's get to work. The dynasty starts now. Well, thanks, girls, for joining me back here for another Family Dynasty podcast. Today, we're talking about stay, heal, and build, being connected to family for the long term, and specifically addressing kind of what we hear is going on in culture, where more and more adults are choosing to disengage and, in fact, completely cut ties with their parents and family. And the more I hear about this trend, it just grieves me. And so I think we need to address it and talk about it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Where do we start?
Well, I have some statistics.
Oh, let's go
if we want to get into that.
What is the current state of culture? Where are we at right now?
So, around 27 to 29% of U.S. adults are estranged from at least one parent.
Well, so that's almost a third. Almost a third of adults are estranged from at least one parent.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, that's over a quarter. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And this trend is actually rapidly increasing, especially among younger generations like millennials and Gen Z.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I read, especially for those under the age of 35, it's more of a phenomenon, right? So we say young adults, I mean, up to age 35 it seems like a snowball effect. I mean, it's always been, I think, there to some degree. And I remember hearing these stories, and there's always pain in families that people do walk away. But it's such a pace and scale that it hasn't been at before.
Yeah. And a lot of social media influencers and therapists with large platforms are normalizing and fueling this trend as well. Mm-hmm. And along with cultural trends that are elevating personal autonomy versus family obligation or family connection.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Carl Trueman's book, The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self, talks a lot about how we got here as a culture, and that this is our number one virtue in culture, unless we're being shaped by a Christian worldview, is this view of autonomy. I am my own person. I get to make my own rules, and it devalues the reality that God has put us primarily in family. Mm-hmm. And our presupposition, and what we want to challenge anyone who's listening that may be considering estrangement as the healthiest option, to seriously reconsider. To reconsider that in light of God, even though there is pain in family, it is worth developing the resilience to stay involved with family. Mm-hmm. Because as painful as it's been, doesn't mean it has to always be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems to be mainly motivated by physical or emotional abuse, mm-hmm. especially from parents. And then also there's just a basic maybe lack of agreement on different issues, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Like political views?
Yeah, it could be anything like that. Just different values. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. And also, especially in social media today, the words trauma and abuse are just kind of being thrown around very lightly, mm-hmm. and treated less than what it actually means. So a lot of people just call things trauma or abuse that aren't actually that, and they maybe just don't have the emotional capacity to deal with those things as much as people used to.
Right. Yeah, I read a statistic that in about 13 to 14% of the times, people are citing that it's abuse, right? They're cutting off all the ties because of abuse. But you wonder if what they're classifying abuse is, my parent gave me a strict command to stop something. You know, I mean, we don't want to make light of abuse in any way,
Right.
but just because it's self-reported abuse, what are they? I have a feeling some of it is just a fragility, a lack of resilience that people now are exhibiting because, and I think also it's so easy to identify with your tribe online before, right? I mean, before the advent of social media and being connected online, you found your people locally. And even if they weren't exactly like, you envisioned your perfect community, you learned to get along. Right? Today is like, we don't have to learn to get along anymore because you can go find all the very specific narrow proclivities or whatever it is you're into to just get into that community. And you somehow convince yourself that this is a healthier reality than being with family, which is many times hard, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that it may be a way for some people to have control over something. And that could be for many reasons. Like if they felt out of control in some way, they feel like this is one way to get back control. But it's kind of like you said, you can put in the work and it's harder to have the emotional regulation to be able to work things out in family that may be difficult. And you can take back control by doing that, or the easier, quote unquote, easier way would be just to cut off ties. Yeah.
So what about, talk about a time, have you experienced a time in family life that you found very frustrating, a time of frustration, or a time when you just were tempted to just check out when you found family life really hard?
Not for me yet, because I feel like I'm still young.
It's coming.
Yeah, hopefully not. But like, I still live under this, like the family roof, I haven't moved out or anything. So I feel like it's not exactly the same for me because I'm still a kid and I don't feel like I need to rebel, I don't know.
20-year-old.
Yeah,
I'm just a kid. I don't know. I feel like if you're living in a house with other people, there's bound to be conflict and it's not going to be easy and you're going to get frustrated with people.
Yeah.
That's just going to happen. And I feel like expecting anything else isn't really realistic.
Let's see, I don't think you girls ever ran away. Your brother, like when he was, I'm talking about every little kid has a story. I ran away from home for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever do that?
Yeah,
I did,
I packed up like Hershey Kisses and I tied them. I really wanted to have like a handkerchief tied to a stick. So I did that and I like went out into the woods and ate my Hershey Kisses, but then I was back.
In 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Thought you were gone all day. Did you ever have that?
Oh yeah, I did, but it was probably over the tiniest little problem.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
probably something like Grace just offended me when I was like 7 and
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember growing up on the farm, right? We, in hindsight, learned a great work ethic, and life was not easy, but, and we had a super loving family, but a couple of things I remember. One is I was probably, I'm guessing 10, 12, and I remember, like, I just thought I was entitled to less work. And I remember I left whatever we were doing. I went and hid in my bedroom, and I hid under the bed. And I'm like, I am never coming out. They are never going to find me. I am not going back to work. I remember that moment. And I remember something switching in my spirit actually during that time. It's like, you know what? What I have to do out there is better than the attitude I'm exhibiting under here. Like, just face it and go back out there. I think another time for me was between freshman and sophomore year of college, and I went away to like a camp all summer long, and your grandma and grandpa were especially your grandma was having a hard time with that reality. I remember when I drove away, she lost it. She like more than when I went away to college, right? And I just remember this feeling of, this is good that I'm leaving. She needs a little space, and she probably did. Right? She probably did need that space to realize she's going to be okay without her son. It was good for both of us, So I think there can be times when I'm so grateful that my parents have always been on a growth trajectory, as well as hopefully I have too. Those are the healthiest families, right? When you never stop growing, because we all have our hang-ups and issues at some time. We're hanging on to people too closely. We're, developing some level of codependence can happen. But yeah, if we're all on that growth trajectory, what I find interesting is the law of attraction, right? The law of attraction is the more needy we are, the more people want to remove themselves and get away. And the more okay we are, the more attractive that is to have people want to come in and be close to us. And I saw my parents kind of exercise that maturity that was attractive to me to come back in, honestly. And so I think that's a lesson, or just a takeaway, that if I could encourage family leaders and those parents who are sad because their kids have moved away or don't want to be as connected with the family, is to say, get healthy yourself. Get emotionally healthy where you do not need your kids. If you're projecting to any one of your kids that you need them, that's an automatic repellent. They sense that, and they don't want. It's icky, right? They don't want. If a child is getting well adjusted, they're going to have to be anti-fragile to be able to come into that needy situation and still be able to honor and respect and bless and connect with their parents. But it's not going to be as fun for them, will it?
Yeah, because that's putting a lot on your kid. You're putting a lot on them, especially if they have a lot of hurt there. They shouldn't be responsible for you being okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the books I love is I think it's Nate Regier, Compassionate Accountability. And in there, he talks just about this concept: I'm okay, you're okay. And we have to get to a point emotionally ourselves where no matter how hard family is, no matter how hard any relationship is, that I'm okay. Right? Because of understanding who I am, that if I go back into a hard family system, it's not going to floor me or rock me. Right? We have to do the work of emotional resiliency. That is a process, and it's not like you flip a switch, make a decision, and that healing is done immediately. We're not trying to say that. But I think engaging in that work with the goal of becoming resilient so that you're no longer floored or destroyed when you go back into a challenging family system.
Yeah, and I think it's important to acknowledge and honor the pain that some people actually do really go through in families.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, especially cases of abuse or actual trauma, like that can be a very real pain and like mistrust that's there. And that's a good example of how you need to be a resilient person, you need to be a healthy person before you insert yourself in something that you know is going to hurt you again. Like there's a part of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we need to, just like every issue in life, we need to address it with nuance.
Yeah.
We're not here to say anyone who has completely cut off ties with their family is a bad person or doing life wrong. I think these are issues that call for wisdom, and it's best that with any issue that we surround ourselves with many counselors to speak into it. But I think what I want to challenge people to say is, even if you have experienced terrible and horrific abuse, that you should not automatically think, I must be disconnected from my family for the rest of my life. There may be a season, too, and it may be for a lifetime. There may be situations where it's just too painful and too dysfunctional and too harmful to ever reconnect.
Yeah.
But I think too many people haven't done the emotional work to get healthy and set healthy boundaries to then re-engage, to realize that even in a messed up dysfunctional family, there can be redemption there. And knowing that God has really built the world with this story of reconciliation and redemption, he wants it to take place in family. And it is the healthiest person who's going to foster and initiate that. And so I think the goal and the message for each of us is become as healthy and resilient as we can so that we can, to whatever degree possible, offer it. It may not, right? It's reconciliation and redemption takes two parties. It may not happen. But as far as we can initiate that, I think it's a worthwhile pursuit.
Yes. I would definitely say there's a difference between having emotional discomfort versus being in actual danger.
Yeah.
So that is something to keep in mind as well if you're wanting to rebuild and reconnect with family. It could still be very emotionally uncomfortable, but to be able to distinguish the difference for yourself between that and actual danger.
No, I think you're hitting on something here that we can avoid growth, right? If we're always seeking comfort in our lives, if we're avoiding stressful situations, we're going to be cutting our growth cycle off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And I think, again, where we can go to our comfortable tribe, where we're going to be reinforced in our thought processes, it can be a reinforcing pattern that we unwittingly are avoiding growth because we're taking ourselves out of uncomfortable situations. Whereas if we really want to embrace growth, it's good to stay emotional discomfort, right? Have you been trained? It's like lifting a little bit of weight and sticking with it. You can lift more and more weight physically, builds muscle and capacity and resilience. So it is emotionally too, right? If we can hang in there with tough situations, it will build our emotional resilience.
Yeah. Yep. So whereas it may be easier for you to just cut off and not deal with, ultimately you could be missing out on a lot of redemption as well as a lot of growth by putting in some of the hard work to be emotionally uncomfortable with your families.
Well, it's making me think, I think I mentioned this on our first podcast, how you girls, when you were younger, the 6 of you girls stayed in one bedroom for many years. I heard just this last week, some of you were telling stories about, you were talking about Morse code that you and Ellie were using.
Yeah, we used to communicate between our beds with Morse code because Elena wanted us to be quiet.
Oh, that's right.
You're reinforcing, I think we made a good decision, right? You have become emotionally resilient for a lot of reasons, but maybe one of it was you were forced to coexist, 6 of you in that one little bedroom and work things out. You developed some capacity to endure some, emotional challenge.
Yes.
So what does it look like to have healthy boundaries and still preserve family ties?
I think a big part of it is just having the ability to say no. I think a lot of times there can be pent up emotions if you're not able to just say no to certain things, whether it's just a visit that's too often. And I think a lot of times that builds up when you have maybe an anger towards a family member because you haven't been able to voice your opinion to them. And then that leads to you wanting to cut ties. Whereas if you had just set clear boundaries and maybe just had honest conversations, I think it's a practical way.
Yeah. I just had a thought. I feel that it's important when and if you need to set boundaries, that it shouldn't be coming from a place of like, I'm going to show you and I hope these boundaries make you feel bad and like make you feel left out as like a way to retaliate against the hurt. I feel like ultimately you're just going to be continuing to harm yourself.
That's right.
Because that's not coming from a place of forgiveness or reconciliation. And that's probably also not going to feel as rewarding as you think it's going to feel to be like, oh, I'll show you by setting this boundary in place. And I think when people use the word boundaries, they use it like that. Like it's a punishment or a jail cell that you can put someone else in because they did something to you. Where instead, I think it should be focused on if you need to keep yourself or keep your kids safe or protected, then those boundaries are for that, not to like retaliate against someone.
Yeah, that's good. So, a culture that prioritizes and justifies and even feels good about cutting others off how can we reprioritize and see the good in staying and learning conflict resolution skills and working through conflict? What do we have to do there? What kind of cultural work needs to be done to help people reframe that or understand that that conflict is a good and healthy thing?
Well, I think it builds relationships. When you have conflict and you're able to resolve it and forgive each other, then it makes it easier when you have to do it again in the future, I think. And I think when you go through conflict together and then it's resolved, like your relationship is ultimately stronger because of it.
Yes. Yeah, I love the thought that there is actually a deeper intimacy in relationship on the other side of conflict. In that when we settle for an artificial harmony because we're just unwilling to have those hard conversations or go to the difficult place, that we settle for a harmony that's artificial because we haven't talked about the reality of the conflict that exists.
Yeah. I feel like to some degree, some people know and expect that, like in a marriage relationship, obviously there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of conflict resolution, and communication is really important. But I don't know if people think of it the same way as like parent relationships, or think of those same conflict resolution skills being needed in family relationships as you're an adult as well. And just because someone's your parent or someone who's in a different, like, quote unquote power dynamic, it doesn't mean that they also won't get in conflict with you, or you also won't have to use those techniques with them.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, what is the research of how many people truly have a Christian worldview in America today? It's a very small percentage of people. And I think, a big part of what's missing is people are confused on what it means to be human, the way God has created us. And if we understand that the God who gave us the Ten Commandments is the God who defines reality. Dennis Rainey wrote a great book called The Forgotten Commandment. You know what the fifth commandment is? Right? The first four have to deal with our vertical relationship with God, and the next six have to do with our horizontal relationships with one another. So the fifth commandment is that first one that starts dealing with horizontal.
Honor your father and mother.
Honor your father and mother. And it seems to be the forgotten commandment. And so if we understand that God who created us has the right to define reality and what is best for us, he's commanded us, honor your father and mother. And so I think we see ultimately a generation that is disconnected from any understanding of who God is, and that God has created you to flourish when you honor your father and mother. And how can you truly honor them if you're completely disconnected? And so this is, I think, when you just take it back to its very essence, this is what we pray and hope, that those who are thinking they're doing something to heal are actually hurting themselves. We just pray and hope that they would get connected to the source of life and take him at his word and do the hard work of dealing with the reality that there's pain in families. We have a really wonderful family. I can talk about my pain in family. I've had considerable pain in family. And there have certainly been, besides the ones I shared today, other times when I just wanted to disconnect. But thank God I did not. And there's just, I can't imagine a life disconnected from all the goodness that comes from family, even though it has brought about some of life's biggest pain too. And I think that is kind of family life, right? Our biggest pains and our greatest joys come from family. But this is the work I think God has called us to do, is to work through that pain. And as we do, we will each grow and be able to experience more and more joy in family life. So if you want to speak to someone considering cutting off their family, anything else you'd want to share with them or ask them to consider?
Yeah, I would really encourage that a lot of beauty can come from family, and kind of what you were saying, working through at whatever pace is healthy for you, being able to have the best connection you can with your family in a way that's still safe, in a way that's healthy as you can make it. I just think that there's going to be benefit to that.
Yeah. That's good.
And that's going to look different for everyone depending on their situation growing up or whatever. But I just think that to the greatest extent that you can be connected with your family, I think that's going to be a really good thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think often if you're wounded in community or family, that's where you need to heal. And you might think that you're just like taking a step back or taking a breath, but really you're cutting off the oxygen to where you can heal. So just being able to stay within community and family as much as you can.
That's a really good point. It's like if your arm were to get a huge gash in it, like your first instinct would not be to amputate your arm.
That's a good analogy.
You would want to go through and actually heal it, even though that would be also painful and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Smart.
You guys are good. You're good. That's why I have you on this podcast with me. That's fantastic. So just for fun, you want to share a family memory that you wouldn't trade for anything?
That's so hard.
What's a family memory that you would not trade for anything?
Just broadly, like when our family used to go to Canada every year. I love those memories of just being outside all day, doing nothing, but I don't know, playing with sticks, fishing, sitting around a campfire.
Belly laughs, some of
Yeah.
the best laughs ever, happen when we're just free of responsibility, just there together.
Yeah.
What's something about our family that always makes you laugh or feel at home?
I always love when if a lot of us are over for dinner and like everyone's talking at the same time, I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And then I can like tune into something over here or over like across the table. I just think that's fun.
It's a staple of having a big family.
Yeah.
Everyone's having a different conversation and you can join any of them.
Right.
Yep.
I love the fact that I have this ability to fall asleep in the middle of chaos easily.
Yeah.
And so much so that if I fall asleep in the living room while everybody's around, as soon as it gets quiet, I wake up.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, something's wrong here. And then I go to bed. So,
Yeah.
I love the hubbub of a big family. Well, girls, I'm so grateful that you have remained connected with family, and we just hope that this podcast has encouraged someone out there who is considering, the real pain that can come from family of maybe I'm just better off disconnecting completely, is to say, do the healing work, get help, face your issues. Don't put them under the rug. Don't pretend they don't exist. Face them head on, deal with them, call them what they are, but don't disconnect from family, if at all possible. If you can remain safe, do the hard work, emotional healing, and blessing your family by your presence and being blessed by theirs. All right, until next time, God bless.
Thanks for joining us on the Family Dynasty Podcast, where legacy is built, not just inherited. If today's episode helped you lead your family with greater vision or purpose, share it with someone else who's building a legacy that lasts. And remember, you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the power to get wealth, that He may establish His covenant. Deuteronomy 8:18. Keep building with faith, leading with love, and living for impact. Your family is your greatest calling.